Okay guys, we're continuing our adventures here in Kazakhstan. And today, I thought it'd be really cool to see a local market. So it's not like we have in, let's say Canada, where you go to a supermarket and everything is there. You have kind of like street markets here. And more importantly, you have the good old flea markets where you can see a whole bunch of old Soviet memorabilia that you can take as souvenirs or just look at it and admire. So that's where we are. We're at one of Almaty's street slash actual markets slash flea market. So let's walk through it, see what kind of cool stuff we can find, what kind of Soviet memorabilia we can discover, and let's see what happens. All right, so we're walking the streets of Almaty. As you can see, this is pretty standard outlay. You'll have the sort of the central market here, probably where they sell meats and such. We'll check it out in a second. And then outside is where you find all the street stuff. It's usually a little cheaper. Usually it's just sold by private sellers, you know, babushkas and whatnot, from their own wares from home. So it should be interesting. As you can see, this is just more of a clothes that you can buy. It's pretty fairly priced. You can also buy some fruits, probably for somebody's backyard. But I think we're getting to the cool stuff. You can always find these little private sellers here, and there's tools you can buy, probably the tools that they don't make anymore, for all the cars that they don't make anymore. They're still all here, right? And you can go and see. Okay, let's see. You can buy smokes, some traditional Kazakh rugs and pillows. Well, this is interesting. Look at this old Russian samovars. So the samovar was basically a staple Russian thing. You would use it to sort of welcome your guests. You know, there would be water right here, and then you would actually put wood chips up here, and so it would kind of perpetually heat the water, and then you can kind of mix that hot water with the tea that you brew, and you can sit there for hours and entertain your guests inside your house. So it's kind of the old-fashioned kettle that never got cold. Very staple of Russian culture. As you can see, you can buy street food like shashlikis, which is like basically Russian version of kebab. Some sausages, chickens. But I think we're getting to the cool Soviet memorabilia stuff. Let's just get out of the clothes part and see stones, boxers, if you ran out on your trip. But quite interesting. Oh, look at that. There we go. There's more Soviet stuff here. Perfect. Okay. Oh, there we go. We found a picture of Lenin there. Probably from all the way from the olden times. Yeah, it's quite neat. Здравствуйте. Oh, look, and there's a picture of Stalin too. Yeah, well, there you go. Можно посмотреть, да? So here we go. You can see all sorts of memorabilia here. Oh, look at that. This is neat. Oh, dude. Is this Lenin? This is a bust of Lenin? Kind of Mongol looking Lenin, but oh, look at this. the Mishka from the Russian Olympics in the when was the Olympics been in Russia?
Ours was 88, right? It's 81, I think.
Yeah, so this is all the way from 81 Russia Olympics. Look at that, and there's an old Soviet book. This is Kniga Почета. So this is a book of honor. This is where your name would go when you work at some factory or whatnot, and then people can sort of flip through it and know who the local heroes are. Oh, this is neat. Look at this. We have some old Soviet books. You have the Geography of Cuba, which is, of course, one of the sort of satellite states that Soviets were heavily invested into. So, you know, you could read about the geography of such a thing, right? Perhaps you're a military guy and you want to know the terrain where you're going to fight. That's where you'd find that. This is Russian army and fleet of the 19th century. And so I guess this would tell you all the stats from the 19th century Russian army and fleet. This is neat. It's kind of a treasure for somebody heavily involved in history. Oh, this is nice. Look at this. Oh my. I actually quite like this. Look at this. Illustrated History of Soviet Union. Wow. This is also very interesting. So this would be the national songs of Russia. Wow. This is so unique. Wow. Lots of interesting stuff here. Alright guys, well look at this. Doing more exploration, and we found some statues here. Pretty cool. This is of Lenin. This, I wanted to show you, this is of Matrosov. He was a soldier in the Russian army, and Soviet army in World War II. And what he did, he basically threw himself upon the German machine gunist, and by that he killed himself because they weren't able to shoot from the hole anymore. But he killed himself, but he saved his comrades that were able to advance and eventually take over the German bunker. So, very famous Soviet hero of the World War II, and that's his bust. It's really cool. And there's Leo Tolstoy, of course, one of the greatest Russian writers of all time. Of course, wrote War and Peace and Anna Karenina. And then you have the, I think, Trotsky and Lenin's. So, what a cool thing. We should pick something up. Some old Russian radios. I think I remember seeing this one as a kid, actually. Yes, and they would have the little thing here. Oh yeah. Yes, this is straight from my childhood. Wow. So neat. Alright guys, we're continuing our journey to find Soviet treasures. There's the map of Kazakhstan, but that's new. That's post-Soviet times. We're out for some Soviet things. Ooh, look at this. Found a bust of Maxim Gorky. He was one of the great Russian writers. Actually, I think he was born in Ukraine, but very famous, very pro-Soviet writer in the 30s. Okay, well, not too much here. Yeah, that's kind of cool, the Gorky, but it's a little chipped off, so I think we'll pass on that. Wow, it's pretty interesting, eh? Never know what you're gonna find. Never know what you're gonna find. Okay, looks like there's more clothes here. Shapkas and coats for the cold Kazakh winter coming up here, so better load yourself up. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Honestly, this is where you're gonna find the most interesting stuff. Like, you know, if you're gonna go to souvenir shops in the post-Soviet countries, you're gonna find stuff that is new and overpriced. It's really not worth it. If you want to see the real deal, come to these street markets. You'll be amazed what you can find. There's all sorts of medals and coins you can find, and if you're a history buff, you can find the old Soviet busts and profiles. Anyway, you know, one thing I want to kind of like a little personal tip to anybody that wants to visit such markets is never buy sort of the first thing you see. First of all, it's not the best approach for bargaining, because they'll be like, oh, you want it? Okay, well, it's 3 times the price. You always want to be like, well, I don't know. How about I come back a little bit later? So that is something you want to try. And then also, you're going to find so much other cool stuff that you might not want to buy that first thing anymore. So what I usually do, I would just take a stroll, kind of pinpoint the things I want to buy. And then when you come back, you're like, you know, I thought about it. Maybe I want to buy it, but like, give me a better price. And they usually do. So that's the approach. Go in, mark what you want to get. Don't buy it right away. Come back, bargain, get it 2-3 times cheaper than the original price. And the bargaining is okay. It's just a normal thing to do. Don't be shy about it. So anyway, looks like this buddy's trying to get through the streets here, the street market, but sort of getting shouted at by the other street vendors. So you can sort of watch and wonder what's going to happen.